Good Thursday evening, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm excited to be with you this week. Last week was such a wonderful event, tasting, that we hit kind of our way around the world. We centered in on some ideas, and then a few more ideas came out, and really we did an extraordinary job, I think, of getting to that wine. We've had the last couple of events tastings where we were a little bit disparate in terms of our perspective, but I think the collective hive last week really focused in on the wine and nailed it, which was awesome. Kathy's with us, and Robert, hello, and Megan, hi, Susan, hello. Great to see you again this week. Brian Knobs, woohoo, wine time. Yes, exactly, Brian, I agree, 100%. Woohoo, indeed, wine time. We're doing a little white tonight. The Shirleys are here, and Joanne's with us this evening. We've got such a good crew. There's about, I'd say, 40, 50, 60 of you who are consistently here each evening, and then we keep finding new folks to join in, which is awesome. And this is pretty special. Jan, hi. And the caliber, as I was saying, of last week's experience, I just left that tasting kind of going like, I was in the Rhone, I was pretty comfortable there. We were all very comfortable in the idea that it was a French red. And then someone threw out Languedoc, and I was like, all right, yeah, there is that kind of caliber of the wine there, and there's elements and there's specific qualities of that particular wine that weren't fully Rhone, but they were partly so, and it was just awesome to work that wine together. So, Rick, awesome to see you, Mr. Davis, from last night. You picked up the wines, and you're preparing some food tonight to go with them, which is awesome. Peg is watching. Trans here. Hey, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody had a good week. We've had a pretty busy week here, not necessarily by way of reservations and service, but because we've endeavored to, as I mentioned last week, close the cabanas, and construction is underway, and then got halted by the rain. So that's construction. When you're building something outside, delays will be inevitable with respect to weather. And so the crew that's working on them, though, is fearless, and they were back at it today trying to get things rolling. So Swanbergs are here tonight. Jan Nelson's here tonight. The Millettes are here too. Awesome. Matthew Fitzsimmons is watching. Awesome. Hey, Matthew. Clancy's are here too. Hey, Sean and Ann, how are you? I'm so glad you're with us. And sorry we didn't get a chance to see you for Ann's birthday, but happy birthday to you, belated as it is. Christine's here. Hi. Glad to have Christine joining us all the way from Michigan. And the Kestenbaums are here. Mindy's with us too. All right. What do you think? Should we taste the white? I don't know if the Swanbergs have already got a head start on us like they have each week with respect to the white. This was poured into a decanter about 20 minutes ago for me and put in the refrigerator to keep it chilled. So it hasn't been opened for a period of time. But we know it's white. For those of you that don't have the wine at home, here's the wine to play along with. It's got more of a richer color to it, doesn't it? That's pretty cool. So, if we're talking about just the appearance, what do you see? Is this wine clear? And James, thank you for joining us or watching. Swanbergs are behind. No worries, there's no behind. You just pour yourself a glass and let's catch up. Kathy's with us, and Kathy, yeah, there are some gold tones in this wine for sure. It's clear, it's pale, pale to medium intensity perhaps. I wouldn't call it deep, yeah, more like medium intensity, isn't it? And then it has sort of a goldish color cast to it. Medium gold, the Swanbergs are saying, and the medium gold, Susan's noting as well. Yeah, so we're in a medium gold wine, right? So this is probably not what? This is not Sauvignon Blanc, probably not. If it is, then it would be probably, something that has some oak aging to it and aged Sauvignon Blancs. Chris Shirley's with us tonight and didn't read the label, and he had it out and open for about the last hour. Well, it's ready to breathe and go. I'm sure you'll be perhaps ahead of the rest of us with respect to getting the aromatics. So when a wine is a little bit warmer as opposed to colder, it's more expressive, and that's large part thanks to the alcohol. The alcohol releases, and you get more aroma as a result. Chanel's watching. Hey, hi, how are you, Chanel? And Terry's watching too. And Jan, you're noting kind of a lemony color. Yep. Perfect. So we're in a richer wine typically when we see that gold quality. That gold quality would give you an indication probably of some kind of ripeness, some kind of varietal that has a bit more of a skin thickness to it, and that might have been bronzed, for lack of a better term, in the sun. So something that had some more color that way. Could also be an indication of aging and some barrel treatment to give it that color. So we're not sure yet, but we're starting again to begin to build our profile and to pick which fork in the road we wanted to go to. So if this is light and kind of greenish cast, we wouldn't be thinking about a robust, kind of warmer temperatured white. But that could all go out the window as we taste the wine, just like I said, building that initial thought. So medium gold. Does it smell clean to you? Anything kind of popping out? Andy says Italian. Cool. Yeah, you can definitely get some Italian wines that have that color, that goldish cast to it. You can get that from, so right off the bat, we could start trying to kind of sketch out a profile, right? So this could be Chardonnay, could be Chenin Blanc, could be Italian varietals, white varietals, Verdicchio perhaps, something like that. It could be, you could see this with sort of a Rhone white, Roussanne, maybe a Roussanne blend that could have had some age on it. This isn't looking kind of dusty old, this looks bright and polished and kind of fresh, but it has that deeper tone of color. So we'll have to see more. What other varietals do you think this could be, guys? What am I missing? Ooh. It could be Alsatian white. Perhaps it's like an Alsatian Riesling that has a little bit more of that intensity to it. What about the aroma? It smells clean. Is it light in its smell? Is it kind of faint? Something not detectable necessarily on the nose? It's something, there are a few notes in the nose that you can detect with relative ease, or is it just punching in the face with a whole bunch of aroma that are easy to detect? And I'd say this is a relatively pronounced medium plus. And Robert, you're right, dead on in the first word for sure. Apple, peach, lots and lots of honey. It's aromatic. Susan's picking up on apple, all kinds of apple. And the Svanbergs are throwing out Viognier as one of the potential varietals. Yes, Viognier could absolutely be a varietal here with that color. You could see some of that sometimes. And Svanbergs are saying, as is Rick, that this is a pretty faint nose. So for me, it's a pretty pronounced, very pronounced nose of apple. And then it goes sort of muted faint. There's not as much after that. That honeyed element is coming through. There's a little bit of a waxiness. And waxiness like beeswax. So another element of the honey, of the bee, I should say. Ripe apple, pear, white peach from Kathy. Wow, yeah. Stephanie, thanks for joining us this evening. Aaron's throwing out there Vermentino. Yeah. We could be considering Vermentino, another one of those Italian varietals. Kathy's noting that it has a whole bunch of aromatics to her. It's sitting just next to her, and it's wafting out of the glass, and it's easily perceptible. So there's I'm trying to suss it out. There's kind of a petrol note there. There's an oily note that I'm picking up here. Anybody else finding that in the nose? There's a Mary Jane's asking if we have any melon on this, and I'm not picking up melon myself. But there's this definite kind of petroleum element here for me, which is interesting. Svanbergs are also echoing the idea of honey, and so apple and honey, light floral coming from Kathy, and she's picking up a little bit of that oiliness, like a lamp fuel kind of oiliness. Stacy Maria is here, and Frank, my cousin, is watching. Man, how are you, sir? So glad you're with us this evening from thousands of miles away. That honeyed element And the apple element certainly makes us consider, or we should consider, Chenin Blanc. And sometimes that oiliness, maybe that's where I'm getting the lanolin element, some sort of a woolly element. I don't know. I have to sit with this for a moment. Hart Stetson's watching this evening. Thank you, sir. And so yeah, it's expressive on a few notes, but not all of them, and it seems like it's a touch muted beyond that, or at least there's some things kind of peeking out, like that white floral note that was noted. Is there more perhaps there? We just haven't seen it yet. So let's taste it and see if we can kind of verify some of the things that we threw out initially by way of our visual assessment, and then also of the aroma assessment. Robert, thanks. That's an interesting one. Vine sap or turpentine instead of oily, but very faint. Yeah, it was for me. It's not prominent. It's not like a dominant quality of the wine. It's just behind it. That's an interesting wine, huh? We are tasting, let's do taste first, but we are tasting something that has high acidity and continuation of that acidity. Jan's picking up a little bit of that saltiness, a minerality, and that high acidity with a little bit of citrus, a lot of legs, some green apple for Brian. So we didn't do that visual part of it, right? But it has some sheeting on the glass. The sheeting is what you get first before it leads to those legs. And the formation of the legs, it kind of isn't even forming legs in my glass. It's just going down the glass in one form of a sheet that flies down. It's not flying down, it's kind of easing down. Tons of green apple for Shirley, for Chris. Yeah, it's the green apple is more prominent on the palate. And now let's work that for a second though. Taste it again. And are you getting green apple on the palate because it's actually green apple, or are you thinking that high acid is reminiscent more of a green apple experience and the flavor is a different apple? Because there's no doubt that acid is like the experience of a green apple, the tart malic acid. But it's more of a reddish Macintoshy apple for me in terms of flavor. So there's ripeness in the apple flavor, but there's tons of acidity. And Rick's noting the apple and the lemon. Yeah, I think that's there for sure. Chris is throwing back out Grenache Blanc, maybe Sauvignon Blanc blend. Jan saying French for sure, which that acidity certainly would lead you that way. And we could be talking pretty comfortably about Chenin Blanc, for example. All the descriptors we're putting out there, apple, the lemon, the honeyed element, and Chenin Blanc is definitely high acid. So this could be something like, Vouvray, Montlouis. It could be from Savennières, especially on the drier side of things. We could head toward something like Savennières. The Millettes are all in for France, or at least +1 for France. So I don't know if that's Nicole or Steven getting the +1, but no, they're just saying yes, they agree with the French idea. Brian's noting that he agrees with the apple and lemon and still some honey. Finishes is smooth. Yeah, I agree with you, Jan, there for sure. The minerality that sheet you picked up just a second ago too could be found in the Loire. So I'm not trying to pigeonhole us into one spot for sure right off the bat, but my first smell with that apple and the color said I was in the Loire Valley with the Chenin Blanc. And now the process is to see whether or not that's right and what else we should consider. Hey, Sharon, cheers to you. Thanks for joining us and for watching. So much acidity. Yeah, Nicole, for sure, Vouvray potentially. So Vouvray is a village in the Loire Valley, in the central part of the Loire, that is renowned for making Chenin Blanc. And they make Chenin Blanc in some dry styles, some off-dry styles, some very sweet styles, some sparkling styles. And this is a case certainly of dryness. Just to the west of Vouvray is a place, well, it means to back up. To the south of Vouvray is a place called Mont-Louis, across the river, where they make the same sort of styles. And then to the west is another place called Savinière. Savinière is a little bit more of a premium-focused Chenin Blanc spot where they make dry Chenin. So, Jan's throwing out that Vouvray is her first guest, and I don't think that'd be a bad guess at all. Bettina's watching, thank you. Kathy, I missed your earlier comment about Alpine whites. I think you just said you did a tasting of Alpine whites, and this is reminding you of that. And that's possible too, right? The Alpine, anything mountainous can kind of give you a kind of ripeness if it gets warm enough, if it gets enough sunshine, and then you get this nice high acidity because of a diurnal fluctuation, the coolness of those nights. Nicole saying it reminds her of a 1990 Domaine de Viking, that was absolutely striking for us. Looking at the empty bottle right now. Oh, that's awesome. Taste memories are magnificent. They encapsulate full-blown multi-moment experiences in just one quick reference point, and that's amazing. So the Brooks are watching. Hey guys, how are you? Oh, there's something else there that just, it's now turning for me a little bit into butterscotch candy. A Werther's original. Just the outside. Oh, Brenda, I'm glad you checked too. We do start each time at 7, so happy to have you. Sometimes we go till 8, but usually we're done in the middle of the 7 o'clock hour. Very cool. All right, so if it's Chenin Blanc, let's stay on Chenin Blanc for a minute, and then we'll try to consider some other things. If it's Chenin Blanc from the Loire Valley, we could be talking about Vouvray, Mont-Louis, Savinière. If it's Chenin Blanc and it's not from the Loire Valley, we could be talking about California. We could be talking about a production from South Africa, and that would be a really cool wine because you can certainly taste some beautiful wines from South Africa. Jan's picking up a little banana now. Yeah, it's opening up a touch, right? Chris Shirley, with you who have had it open and not chilled, he's picking up peach and candied orange, so he's picking up a little bit more expressiveness. Mm-hmm. So let's recap. You've got high acid. That's the first thing we all talked about. Right after we remarked on the fact that it was a medium intensity, goldish colored wine. So right off the bat there, those things still fit with respect to Chenin Blanc. We had also thrown out as a potential varietal Viognier. And Viognier would not have this high of an acid. So you could rule out Viognier at this point in the discussion. It also doesn't have the same aromatics that you might get from Vouvray, even though it had a faint hint of that white flowery element. This is continuing to evolve open. So it had some alcohol. We could see that by way of the color potentially, and by the way of the formation on the glass, that sheeting. It could potentially have some residual sugar, but upon tasting it, it's dry, and so we get this piercing and lengthy acidity, a long finish, a pedigree, a smooth finish, as was noted. Michelle's watching, thank you. And Krista, you said you found yours not chilled. It almost has some effervescence at first taint. Yeah, there's this little bit of bubble in there, and that might be sort of some CO2, some carbon dioxide that's still in suspension that definitely blows off after you swirl the glass or try it for a second. But yeah, there's a tiny bit of that. And so that would indicate too that this is perhaps a young wine, because usually over time the CO2 just kind of integrates and dissipates. And so it would be an indication that we'd be talking about a younger wine. And so that color and a younger wine would be a good case for something like Chenin Blanc. Some people threw out Sauvignon Blanc as an option, and this would have to be like a Semillon Sauvignon Blanc kind of blend. which it might be. But we're not getting any kind of those citrusy notes other than lemon. And the Swanbergs, Jeff just hammering home once again the idea of France, and I think that's kind of the case, right? So, and Eric, I'm sorry you've been working too much lately, but I'm glad you're back tonight. Yes, we've been missing you as well. So, we're dealing with a white that's got a golden color, high acid, apple, lemon, honey, a little bit of white floral quality. It definitely has a medium plus body. Yes, I think, Kathy's echoing again the idea of France. And so we had initially also considered the idea of this being Italian white. And I think that it just isn't displaying sort of that Italian white character, but we could be wrong. If it's not Chenin Blanc, could this be, we had green apple thrown out, an apple and lemon, and those are also descriptors you could definitely use for Chardonnay. So we could consider Chardonnay. Brenda's noting that the minerality is at the end. Yep, and that acidity. Erica, yeah, we just kind of touched on the idea of Viognier, and this acidity would kind of rule out Viognier. I think it was 2 tastings ago when Tony was with us, and a friend of mine, Matt Carroll, was on joining us, and he said we were talking about 2 different varietals, and he described Chenin Blanc though as like a snowplow, something that the acidity just kind of moved across the whole of your palate, of your tongue, and this is definitely the case. Chris is saying he doesn't think it's Chardonnay, and Erica, no apologies necessary. I'm glad you have the time to join us. We're happy to have you with us, and we're just trying to catch you up to speed here. Chris is definitely throwing still out the idea of Chenin or Grenache Blanc. So Grenache Blanc is a possibility, and it could be the blend with Grenache Blanc and maybe a little Viognier, maybe a little bit of something like Marsanne or Roussanne kind of added in, and this could be a Southern Rhone blend. But it's kind of so pure in its expression that I would have a harder time running with a blend. And Kathy, when you say Alpine white, are you talking about what variety? Or are you thinking about something from Switzerland? Are you thinking about something from the Jura, like Arbois or something like that sort? The Jura and Savoie. She's so southeastern, kind of eastern France. In the Jura, you're going to get textured whites of color. And Sean, 100% not an IPA. Yeah, Arbois or Jacquard. So this could be Jacquard. Jacquard has some high acid. For sure, that'd be interesting. So that'd be a neat wine. I've tasted it maybe 2 times in my life at Jacquard. Arbois, same kind of thing, 2 or 3 times. So I would be less knowledgeable on those wines. So I think I would head back to the Loire Valley, but I think we could certainly be tasting a Jura based on my limited understanding of the region. The color, the alpine element, high acid, the honey, the apple is really pronounced. It's persistent. Whew. That acid is not going anywhere. It's silky though, you're right, Jan. The texture is beautiful. David's asking, could it be Pinot Blanc? Yeah, we threw out the idea of kind of an Alsatian white. And Pinot Blanc could be in the running, certainly with all that lemon element. I don't know that I get as much apple from Pinot Blanc, but the lemon, the acidity may be a little bit touch high for Pinot Blanc, but wow, it could be. It is delicious, I agree, Kathy. It's really tasty. Wow. Yeah. That persistent acidity makes you want to have another taste. But it doesn't linger in any way that is kind of aggressive. It just goes and goes and goes. Almost like the acidity carries the finish and then quietly goes away while the flavor just continues on. The lemon in particular is still present, and it goes from sort of that fresh lemony element to more of a lemon pith for me, which is neat. Makes this wine kind of have multi-dimensions and very interesting. So I would call this more of a complex wine. It has an intrigue. At the bottom of our sheet, it says your final conclusion. What's the quality level? This is a pretty good quality wine. This is a wine that has a very good quality to it. All right, folks. So, Kathy, it sounds like you're throwing out maybe Jura or Savoie. So, others are on the Chenin Blanc train. One or two, or Chris was on kind of Grenache Blanc from the Rhone, perhaps. We all sort of seem to agree that we are in France. And so, any final thoughts as we start to kind of work our way toward our initial and final conclusions? I mean, our initial conclusion would certainly be France, region to be determined. Discussion of varietal, Chenin Blanc, maybe Grenache Blanc, maybe Arbois or Jacquer. And Jeff, I think, yeah, we've kind of touched on the idea of the blend. I don't see as much compelling evidence here for a blend. It just seems like it's all, where, not to denigrate a blend, but sometimes a blend has a series of different things going on at once, and you can have harmony with that. This is just like one pure blow through the trumpet of Miles Davis. Like just, you know, you've got just this kind of power. We also can consider Alsace. So the Clancy's like Alsace. Brenda likes and agrees with Kathy kind of for something from the Jura, perhaps. And hey, good evening, Hank. Cheers to you, sir. I think I'm of the mind that I would probably put myself in a nice wine like Savennier from the Loire Valley, more recent vintage, 2018, is probably where I'd comfortably go, and uncomfortably could posit a guess, a full-blown guess of something from the Alpine area. Yeah, Sean, definitely Miles Davis. Yesterday was kind of a kind of blue day. Teed that album up as I were driving into work with the rain pouring and the leaves falling and that first or so piercing note of the trumpet that just kind of starts you off and then kicks off with the drums and the bass. This wine is that bright, high-toned, just trumpet music to me. All right, yeah. What do you think, folks? Any final thoughts? We are comfortably 30 minutes in, which is where this wine didn't necessarily change at 20 minutes, but it definitely opened up a little bit and gave a touch more. We talked a little bit about, remember in the beginning, that this color could become a part of age, but then we looked at it and said that there was kind of a persistence to it, and that malic acid, the sheeting of color, sheeting of the alcohol, all those kind of signs that indicate that this is probably a more youthful wine. And yeah, it's just getting tastier and tastier. That is good. The density, the weight, the Jacquer I've tried in the past, in the Arbois, were not quite as rich on the front end. They match in some ways to the finish. I don't remember them having this persistent acidity, and kind of in my mind, the acidity of this Chenin Blanc and Petit Malsain are the two that are just over the top acid, and that's this. So I'm pretty comfortable. I'm going to stay where I am. I'm going to stay Savennier 2018, which is Loire Valley, France. And Megan, I'm sure we have more bottles of this And we would certainly, if you wanted some kind of volume of it, we would absolutely be able to look into getting more for you, which is the case most weeks. Part of what we do, or what, I shouldn't say we, Tony and Julie to some extent, but Tony, when he's placing orders for these wines, is asking that there is enough backstock to get some more if necessary, and if there's an interest. And we place an order for, like I said, about 40 to 60 bottles each week, because that's about who's playing each given week. So definitely have extra availability, or would do our best to find more for you if you're interested. All right, let's see what we got. Yep. Kathy, you were quite right to think about Savoie. So that's cool. This is 11% alcohol. This is Chignan, old vine wine from Savoie. This is 2017. Pretty cool, folks. Neat wine. I haven't had this wine. I think I did taste this once. I certainly have tried some wines from this producer, André Michel Gerard. They are making some lovely wines. So very cool. So another thing to consider. Tony and Brenda have been there. Oh, how cool. I would like a case. Yeah, absolutely. We will absolutely put something aside for you. For those of you too that were at our tasting event, the fall wine buying event, and haven't been by to pick up your wines are here. So please drop by. Kathy, I don't know, to your point of if this is mostly Jacquard. It doesn't say on the back, and I apologize, I don't know, because they couldn't have possibly given me that information in advance. But yes, I would imagine it does have mostly that. This is a Kermit Lynch wine brought in and sold to us by our friend, which is really great. That's so cool. All right, cool. I mean, so this is something to think about when also talking about the production of Chenin Blanc. This is another high acid kind of production. So Sean's asking about Savoie. Savoie gives you that alpine character, which is what we touched on for a brief second there after Kathy mentioned it. But alpine giving you some high acid capability, a little bit of ripeness. The varietal itself has a thicker skin. So yeah, really, really cool, cool stuff. Savoie also in the Jura, you're also sometimes seeing wines that are sort of madderized or tawny browned, and you get a sort of orangish character to them. They have wines that are just a bit more savory than fruited, and yeah, I think that's a pretty neat. It's a neat region that we're starting to see more and more wines start to come out of, and like I said, I haven't had a chance to have too many experiences with these wines. You can start to search them out, and they're beginning to be more and more available, which is a cool thing, and certainly a very fun thing to be able to try in this context. I would say I agree with you, Chris. This is a bit of a curveball, but that's okay. We're 30 plus weeks into doing this. It's time for a curve or two. We've had a few, but yeah, it's a dead ringer, I think, Nicole, that it's still Wavra. So, I mean, wonderful. You can drink this. Part of the problem with my call, I don't know how much you guys paid for this one. I'm sure it's probably 25 or 30. That probably most Sauvignon you wouldn't be able to get for that. And so that's one of the indications that if you take price into account in your evaluation, you probably would have ruled out Sauvignon. You can get Wavra for sure, but there was such a dryness here that it would be a rarity. So, and Sean, yeah, 100%. Let's take a trip. Let's go. Field Main road trip. I'm all for it. We are excited to see that we get a chance to get back out there in the world, and hopefully that happens soon. Kathy consulted the Oracle of Google and says it's 80% Jacquard, but potentially up to 100%, sometimes with Chardonnay, Aligoté, or Mondeuse Blanc. So thank you for that, Kathy. But yeah, Jacquard being the grape here. Interesting. Well, we have to try some more Jacquard, huh? And if anything, we've just learned that this particular preparation of it is delicious and highly acidic. Makes you want to have another glass, because as soon as you swallow it, you're salivating ready for that next sip. And so this would be fun wine to, for those of you that have sort of some of the Thanksgiving preparations at the table. If you do an oyster stuffing, things of that sort, this would be fantastic with that. I mean, I think you could pull this wine out for Thanksgiving and have it just run the gamut of all the things you find on the table, and it would do extremely well. I mean, that acidity piercing its way through a rich turkey gravy, and also then having a dollop of that cranberry kind of chutney or cranberry relish, cranberry sauce, depending on what you do, would be magnificent. Like that acid and this acid would just play each other down, and then you'd get all that cranberry flavor kind of coming out. This could play with the white meat. I think you'd have enough texture to put in the dark meat. So this would be a fun wine for Thanksgiving, and we're happy to put some aside for you. How cool. Great. All right, folks. Well, happy Thursday to you. Thank you, as always, for joining in this week and for playing along and for helping out to get to where these wines are. I learn something each week, and even more than that, I have a great deal of fun. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and then we'll take a break for Thanksgiving, as it is on a Thursday, and we'll come back the week after that and play again. So until next week, cheers, everybody. Have a great week.